This is Duke University.
Bone-breaking dance oppositionality. 1. Target practice. The image of hands up, don't shoot limbs a flattened body in structural accord. Balanced and almost poised, the chalkline referential image suggests submission with weighted body presence, an opening of energy to another more powerful force. My hands are empty. My fingers are open. No weapons here. I await your direction. Tell me what to do next. The poise of hands up, don't shoot stems from its constructed balance. The arms are to be symmetrically raised to achieve the correct posture. The arms should be high, above the head, but nowhere near straight. Try it. Join me, please. Arms up. Too high. Too eager. Too much to one side or the other. Too fanciful. Too low. Not compliant. Up just so, where they can be moved easily to the head. That is just so. And so we begin our dance together. To carry out an action is to catch its significance. That's Merleau-Ponty. He continues on habit via Sarah Ahmed. The acquisition of habit is indeed the grasping of significance, but it is the motor grasping of motor significance. With our hands up and our bodies exposed, but in weighted presence, we feel the anticipation of a noble action, the directness of a body towards an action. The gesture begs, what's next? 2. A moving target. Flexibility. The movement beyond the habituated persistence of hands up shifts the object of the target practice into something of a subject worthy of perusal. As the object moves of its own volition, it becomes author of a shifting concatenation of receptions. It becomes a possible she, or in the case of bone breaking, almost always a he, on the way back to the revelation of a dancing it. Flexing through a shifty vocabulary of impossible gesture, the bone breaker confirms assumptions of physical limitation need not always apply.
I stay in fire, keep burning like that fire. I got that power. Work good under pressure, y'all. Been through all that stress, y'all. Get this off my chest, y'all. Made it out in projects.
A moving target is much harder to comprehend or to predict. Moving, now gently, now harshly, now queerly, the body deploys its expansive potential to disrupt.
This is not open for discussion. In a peaceful manner, you must disperse.
How can we feel like we can have free speech if there's a guy staring down a sniper rifle as we speak?
This ain't about just Michael Brown no more. It's bigger than that. This for the injustice that's been done to all the black males that's been killed by police.
Freedom riders and sit-in participants allowed their bodies to conform to the spaces that denied their very presence. Their stillness upset the segregated order of the day. Today we do something else. And surely it is the unpredictability of bodies in motion that concern the carceral state most. The moment after the tear gas is fired is the most dangerous. This is the moment of energetic transference, the release of anticipation from hands up, don't shoot, or holding the protester's line, a discordant transformation toward violence. Social movements are physical movements first and foremost. Resistance is a physical act. We tend to think of resistance as stillness or clenching, but resistance is also releasing and dancing. Moving, and possibly dancing, we upset the expectation of a resistant body to be a body always ever in tense anticipation. In motion, we enact change. Sometimes the change comes by marching over a bridge in a mass, walking in inevitable physical accord. Or maybe the change comes in the revelation of huge reserves of potential energy released in the act of running toward the police line. Moving artfully, though, is the turn toward dance, the conscious presentation of bodily movement as ideological discourse. This is expression outside of language. These dances communicate in several registers simultaneously: sensual, defiant, satirical, and entirely made to order, moving with aesthetic purpose. This is fancy movement that expresses without dictating.
Bones and DJ Aaron.
Three, empathy and race. We can't see the pain of the bone breaker, but we can surely imagine its presence, be intrigued by its inevitability, and shrink away from its intimations. We can't see the pain, though. Look, a Negro. We can see the black, but we can't see the pain. Still, that's gotta hurt. Bone breaking cites the persistent pain of black life as a source of aesthetic ingenuity. Push to the breaking point, then release the joint, circle around, and realign the ligature. Demonstrate flexibility in the face of physical trauma. Here, self-inflicted distension as art making. Bone breakers practice their modular flexions. They stretch and train. They gain fluidity in the releasing maneuvers that mark the form. Many are double jointed to begin with, and they enjoy the affinity of the practice with the practice of dislocating their shoulders. The dance of the bone breakers thrives on the creation of illusions of impossible flexibility, and yet much of the art is not an illusion at all, but rather the actual demonstration of ability and agility. In this, we have the demonstration of the mark of the visible pain of being other, to be visibly other, to be a hurt, to be hurt. We know this in the context of the United States, where we have to tell each other that Black Lives Matter, entirely, of course, because that isn't really the case. Some Black Lives Matter, and many don't seem to. Worse, Black bodies offer evidence in our very presence of continuous mistreatment and entirely unethical social and economic institutionalizations. Bone breakers extend the implication of pain that our bodies bear toward an exquisite artfulness that confounds and disturbs. This is the production of discomfort by the dancer, the turn of the object toward the subject by creative animation through the revelation of anticipated capacity and flexibility, virtuosity, wit, self-possession. 4, freakish accommodations, traditions of Black social dance. As Black creativity, bone breaking arrives in line with all manner of theatricalized social dance forms. The life cycles of these social dance forms remains familiar even as we might acknowledge important local variation, and that's geographic variation and across time variation. Here's how I would break it down today. Music and dance emerge in concert, with each driving the other to light. Some dedicated dancers practice enough to launch recognizably original movements into a local public sphere. Think a house party. And more dancers and musicians join in. A repeatable, basic form of the dance solidifies with a name that everyone can remember. This simplified dance travels from neighborhood to neighborhood until it lands, inevitably, in some national media orbit. After it hits a national stage, expert practitioners develop incalculable choreographies of the form, advanced versions of the movements that extend, yet again, its expressive capacities. Meanwhile, most of we do a very simple version of the dance for a few months. Most of us don't do this. Some social dance forms become more extravagant in their theatrical capacity, though, and even more expert dancers realize an even more eccentric embodied possibility previously unknown. I say eccentric to underscore the handmade, extravagantly detailed, expert versions of any Black social dance that inevitably develop. These versions bear little resemblance to the social dance that was briefly practiced by a larger population. But these expert demonstrations, like the one we're watching now, these become the sedimented archive that stands for the dance for later generations. And our other examples we might think of are the cakewalk, the snake hips, the Lindy hop, early b-boying and b-girling, and voguing. The demonstrations of these forms that you will find in the archive will be exceptional iterations performed after months, if not years of practice. Like the Bone Breakers art, Black social dance in heavy circulation is distended well past any general terms of a social that might be easily scalable. The important point I'm trying to make here, depictions of Black social dance inevitably celebrate its most extravagant practitioners. Bone breaking bears close family resemblance to voguing, the dance of posed executions executed as gestures executed as competition. The two forms trade in visible and sexualized articulations of queer as a physical effect and as an assumption of identity politic. But these forms emerged in different eras. Voguing references the cabaret stage and the catwalk, while bone breaking embraces the camera. Voguing actually requires a community of participants, while bone breaking needs only a dancer and a witness, and that witness can be human, analog, or digital. This variance matters a great deal in terms of how Black social dance sustains itself across generations or reimagines itself in new eras. The form of bone breaking has generated a powerful niche collective of young people who stretch, learn to dislocate their shoulders, create routines, film them, and then stage their own how-to web tutorials. A profoundly 21st century phenomenon, bone breaking coheres in a distributed Blackness by the choice of its participants. It needn't foment only from decidedly Black spaces, even as it emerges from them. It needn't depict an unassailably Black worldview in the ways that voguing surely does. The queerness of bone breaking might feel more like that of a ludic sort of abrogation, youthful folly in a way, as a dance of freakishness. Bone breaking is a physical technique that might be used by a dancer to construct a longer solo or as part of a larger whole. It can be an expressive demonstration form, but it's usually only done in short snippets of 3 to 5 minutes, rather than a sort of more extended form. Voguing, on the other hand, is a larger general category of dance practice and could include bone breaking among its contents. Both of these forms, though, bone breaking and voguing, bring us back to the problem of Madonna and the archive of Black expressive culture. And this is taken from Madonna's last tour, the MDNA tour, which includes the artists, the young artists that you've just seen before they were in the Madonna show. Five, dance in opposition, the challenge of dance. The oppositional force of dance tends to stem from its novelty, from the places where it isn't much like normative, habitualized movement. This is both the problem and the resourcefulness of dance. Its contents are entirely unstable, even when it is bound up by name or genre, and its practice tends towards the crucial subject category of expressive. In this, dancing is something like singing, or maybe reciting or writing a poem. Black expressive form, and maybe bone breaking is something like scatting or spitting a rhyme, or writing a poem. Black vocal music relishes its prodigious ability to engender empathy in the sounding of despair and distress in the ever virtuosic blues, spirituals, and soul singing. The dancing body, though, is essentially lively and animated, unusual in its portrayal of emotional valence always tied to physical possibility. To dance, we have to be able to do. The doing speaks of futurity in an embodied manner. It is so, the doing speaks of a practice that is honed, particular, and momentarily thrilling. When it is so extravagantly executed, as bone breaking tends to be, we pause in order to acknowledge its particularity and complexity. We pause and hold our breath as the subject speaks to other ways to physically be in the world. We hold our breath in witness to the self-inflicted othering of the bone breaker, the expressive othering, the gas mask. We hold our breath. The toxic world produces these othered black bodies. The gas mask. We hold our breath. We bone break to demonstrate our protest to the assumption of a unified subject. We hold our breath, the gas mask, we bone break, we hold our breath, we can't breathe. Thank you.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.